Welcome to Thieves' Cant, a tabletop gaming podcast with your hosts, Jeremy Shane and Chris White.
Welcome in, welcome back. Thieves' Cant, Thursday, January 22nd. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for subscribing at thievescantcast. You can email thievescantcast@gmail.com. Chris, hope you're doing all right. No birthday hangover today for you.
No, just the same creaking and moaning as usual when I get up.
Gets worse every day. Last week, we had a good chat about good player habits, good RPG player habits. Just, 5 things that we picked out that we thought, hey, try putting this into practice. Mm-hmm. So why not apply those same 5 habits to the game masters, the folks who take up the GM mantle? How can we use these 5 things to run a better game? Let's run through those 5 items quickly.
Sure.
We said good players know the rules, at least the ones that apply to their characters. They engage with the fiction, not just the mechanics. They share the spotlight. They commit to choices, lean into them, even those messy choices, maybe especially those messy choices. And finally, they accept consequences, whatever comes. Let come what may. So starting with that first one, they know the rules. GM needs to know the rules, right?
It helps.
And again, like last week, I will raise my hand and admit that I am guilty often in not having a lot of rules screwed down tight
right
in my brain. But if there is a central mechanic that matters to your game, mm-hmm. you've really got to know that. Whenever I ran Call of Cthulhu, man, why didn't I really lock in the sanity mechanic early on? Just know how that works. That would make for a much smoother Call of Cthulhu game. That's what it's all based around. Any rules that you struggle to lock into place?
Well, sure. I mean, things you don't use often, things that don't come up often, you're not always going to know that stuff. But I think the difference here between, it's not even necessarily a difference. You don't just have to know the game's rules, you have to know your rules. So you have to know the way you're going to do things. You have to organize everything. Who's tracking initiative? You, probably, right? Who's tracking, when those wolves, the vampire summoned, are going to show up? Well, you are, right? So, yeah, you have to know the rules not only of the game itself, but you have to know the everything that's going on. You have to be aware of that environment. And so you are interacting with the rules in a way that no other player is. You are, in a way, if a GM is doing their job well, the rules start to disappear, right? I mean, we've heard that said before, but for you, the rules that's the realm in which you dwell.
Right. They are always present.
Right. Doesn't mean you're a bad, game master if you don't know the answer to every question. It's okay to look something up, or if that's going to be a problem, it's okay to make a ruling in the short term and figure it out later.
Sure.
But all in all, you need to be aware of the rules that you're using to run that game.
That's not to say that you can't delegate some of that responsibility to players who are willing. Generally, there's somebody at the table who is happy to kind of be the reference person to look those things up on the fly for you.
Yeah.
At least I hope you've got somebody at the table that is willing to help you out from time to time. You have a lot of plate spinning. Knowledge of the rules has got to be a shared responsibility.
Absolutely. I can think, in playing previous editions of D&D, I wasn't always familiar with the grappling rules. Well, if there was there's a player running a grappler, he's probably going to be the expert. He's the one that's read those rules inside and out and got to know them. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great caveat to mention here as the GM. Yeah, you want to know the rules of your game, but you don't have to know what the players' rules are.
Right.
Their individual rule sets that they have because of the choices that they've made in their build. Well, as we said last week, that's on them.
Yeah.
Number 2, going back to they engage with the fiction, not just the mechanics. yeah, this is harder for some of us than others, but do your best to provide those vivid descriptions for scenes, asking questions about your world in prep, or at least what the characters are going to see next about your world. Worry about what's in front of you, but, engage with the fiction. And
the thing is, if you don't know what's happening in the world, nobody knows what's happening in the world, right? I mean, the players are representative of those characters. You are representative of the world, every NPC that dwells within it, the wars, the strife, everything that's happening,
I'm flashing back to a memory with a gaming group. You might have been in this table, but there was a new player that was trying to understand like what in the heck this hobby even is. And the way that I explained it, and she just laughed, was you have your character, and that's who you control. Essentially what you just said, Chris. And I said, and I am the world. Which, looking back, I don't think that person is still playing RPGs.
Right. Yeah, maybe we could have worded it a little better. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, essentially, you are presenting the world and everyone in it to these characters, and they're reacting to those things. Yeah. This is probably a greater responsibility than knowing the rules of the game.
I was going to ask, which do you see as more important?
I think it's this.
Yeah.
We can figure out the rules.
Yeah. And like we said, somebody else can know the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you have an idea of what's going on. But yeah, if you don't know the world, if you don't know the NPCs, if you don't know important NPCs' motivations, that's not going to be a very exciting world to live in. It's going to be pretty boring and dull. So
right.
You've got, above all things, you've got to engage with the fiction.
Yeah, think of it like an open world video game. The more you know, or the more comfortable you are because you know a certain amount, the more comfortable you are at improvising when needed, the further the characters can travel before they hit that invisible wall. And the game is clearly telling them you can't advance any further.
I mean, it's sort of cliche, but if you aren't taking the lore and this world seriously, why would any of your players? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You're the one that sets the tone and provides the flavor for that world.
And remember, you are the world.
You are.
Number 3 is about sharing the spotlight. Players need to share the spotlight, but GMs have a responsibility to give every player those meaningful moments. Avoid making the game about strictly any one PC, or even worse, about their favorite NPC.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen this before when, now I understand why you're running this game. You actually want to play this character.
Yeah. This is really, as the GM, this is really what you're doing, isn't it? Putting all this work in and all these things for moments when other players are going to shine. But those moments are awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the whole point is you are laying down the palette and you are going to watch them create a masterpiece on it.
Or a preschool drawing.
It could be.
It could be.
Yeah. It could be some stick figures stabbing each other and blood everywhere. It could be all those things. But not only are you sharing the spotlight, but you're the setup guy, right? You have all the assist because you're putting everyone in a position where they can shine or where they can struggle.
Are you up in the booth manning the spotlight?
No, you are the spotlight.
Because the spotlight is part of the world.
It's part of the world.
That's right.
That's you.
But yeah, and sometimes, this can be a challenge in itself. If you are particularly as a game master interested in one thread that really one PC has a large part in, or they gave you the most interesting hooks as part of their backstory and nobody else really did, it's hard to spread that spotlight around whenever maybe only one or two people at the table have given you reason to beyond their presence.
That's exactly right. It's finding that places where everyone can shine. It can be challenging.
Number 4, they commit to choices. Chris, we played a game last week. Chris makes the call. All about on-the-spot GM rulings. And sometimes unpredictable things happen. In fact, more often than not, unpredictable things are going to happen at the game table. Mm-hmm. You've got to be prepared to rule. Earlier in this discussion, Chris, you said sometimes you've got to just make a choice knowing that it's probably not how the rule is written, but we're in the middle of things and this is just how it's going to be.
Right.
So make clear rulings, try to be consistent when possible. Yeah. My fear is always making a choice that is I am unknowingly contradicting lore or something in the narrative that then later I'm going to have to say, all right, we'll retroactively fix this.
Right. It can be challenging. Everybody's had to do it. Everybody's had to retcon something at some point. But this is being a game master. There comes a point where you're not going to have all the answers and you're going to have to provide an answer. And I think most players are pretty forgiving in this regard. Oh, you told us the wrong thing. Well, right. Yeah, because I'm human. It can be intimidating, especially early on. The willingness to make a decision and also recognizing that it may be the wrong decision, but you made it.
Yeah.
And someone had to.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. We play in a group together that, we're comfortable enough, at least I'm comfortable enough to say, look, anybody have any suggestions on how you think this should work?
Right.
I don't mind having that discussion, a quick discussion at the table, and being fully transparent that I don't have all the answers. For some people, that is going to totally break immersion.
Right.
And I understand that.
But sometimes there's just a hard ruling or a rule that there's no rule that applies. I guess it depends on your table. I've played with people, we couldn't trust them to tell the truth on their dice.
Right.
So I wouldn't ask them for advice. But, at our table, nobody is going to try to take advantage of a question like that. You're going to get an honest opinion, and we'll work it out. But also, nobody's going to get mad if you're wrong.
All right, finally, number 5, accepting consequences. We expect players to accept the consequences of their actions. And as a GM, still going back to those player choices and actions, you've got to be prepared to let the world or yourself, as the case may be, respond to those choices. Let the world change based on their actions rather than protecting your precious pre-made plans. You've got the story written in your head and, all of a sudden that thread it's gone.
Right.
Because of a choice that was made. You've got to be prepared to just say, okay, that's not the way it's going to go. Mm-hmm. Don't try to script things out.
Embrace it. That's sort of the fun of being a game master. You create this world or you run this world, but there's these crazy little X factors running around here. These characters that are going to do their thing,
right.
And it's seeing how they bounce off the walls and how they react to everything in that world. That's a lot of the fun.
That's a big part of the fun.
Yeah, just telling your story, it isn't nearly as exciting when you're doing that by yourself.
I would think under this umbrella of accepting consequences, we've got to talk about PC death. Maybe it's your goal to take somebody out, right? But what if it was never your intention for a character to die, but things went a certain way and it happens. It happens. And sometimes you feel bad as a GM when that happens. Mm-hmm. But again, there's an opportunity for big things to change in the world. You've got a chance to still make this character's death impactful, make it matter.
This is really a case of short-term pain for a long-term gain. I've never had it feel good to kill somebody's character.
At least that's your story.
Right. That's what I tell you at least. But in the long run, I think a game is better when death is a real possibility. It's something that can happen.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's happening every session.
Right.
But it is always a possibility.
It has to be, because otherwise, what is the threat? Otherwise, we're just going through the motions of you clearing every dungeon and gathering loot. No, there has to be a possibility that characters can die. It's hard. It comes down to the point, as a GM, how many times have you had, a null over a unconscious party member and said, well, I'm going to go attack one of the conscious ones rather than doing what this null would do and gnawing the throat out of this PC, right? Because you don't want to do that. You want to give them a fair shake. But sometimes you just have to kind of put that aside. And sometimes you have to be a little cruel. It's not you being cruel, but you have to recognize that you're playing a cruel thing. Hopefully you're playing with people who are mature enough to accept that. But, we all recognize that sometimes you put a lot into these characters, and especially if it's getting up to mid to high levels, you've invested a lot of time. There's a lot of story there. And when the dice are making the decisions, that's not always going to be the epic last stand that we want it to be either. Sometimes it can be an unfortunate situation, but the possibility has to be there, and you just try to soften it as much as you can, or like you said, make it something worth remembering. And part of that's on the players too. Big John died fighting the gnolls, but, because of him, we made our last stand, and we're dedicating that to him. We're going to go have an ale in his name, right? So it's a part of the game. It has to be a part of the game.
All right, so what are the good habits that game masters should adopt for a better game? We made that our question of the week on Monday, and like any good podcast host, I have neglected to bring that up again until this very moment. So that is the question of the week. If you'd like to drop a note down in the comments or email thievescantcast@gmail.com. We always throw some listener feedback out there on our Monday episodes, so we would love to feature your thoughts. Don't forget to like and follow @thievescantcast. 5-star review never hurt anybody either.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
Coming up tomorrow, the Friday show. Chris, we both have some funny stories of yesteryear about party conflict.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They say don't split the party, but sometimes the party does divide.
Yeah.
Sometimes the parties take sides.
I think we did this more than other people. So, yeah, definitely.
All right. So we'll see you on Friday. Until then, enjoy some gaming. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm the world.
It's been Thieves Cant. So long.
Thank you for listening to Thieves Cant. Email thievescantcast@gmail.com.